Everything in Derry looks calm on the surface, but underneath, something ancient is waking up and it's hungry, and after what episode 5 just revealed, it's clear that nobody in this town understands the danger that's already standing right behind them. Episode 5 didn't waste a single second before diving straight into the chaos, and the tension that's been building across the season finally started cracking open in ways the characters never saw coming. The moment the episode opened, Derry felt different, heavier, colder, like the town itself was holding its breath. You could see it in the empty streets and the way people were moving around, like something was following them. And the scariest part was that it wasn't paranoia. The entity was watching, studying, waiting. This episode made that clearer than ever. The focus immediately fell back onto Lily, and the weight sitting on her shoulders was almost too much to ignore. After everything she's seen, everything she's been forced to accept, she's no longer the same frightened kid we met earlier in the season. But the problem is, the more she tries to step into the truth, the more the truth pulls her deeper into the thing that lives in Derry's shadows. Episode 5 proved that whatever connection she has to Pennywise, it's not just emotional or psychological, it's something older, sharper, and far more dangerous. Her biggest struggle in this episode was trying to figure out who she could actually trust. The Losers Club is still united on the surface, but underneath, tiny fractures are appearing. Fear does that. Fear splits people open. And Pennywise knows that better than anyone. The episode showed this through the small conversations, the suspicious looks, the secrets that people kept buried behind their smiles. Every time one of them tried to pull away or hide something, it felt like the entity was leaning in closer, waiting for the moment to strike. Meanwhile, Ingrid continued to be one of the most mysterious parts of the story. Episode 5 gave her a calm confidence that almost felt unnatural, like she was holding information nobody else had access to. She spoke with a softness that didn't match the danger surrounding them, and every time she gave Lily advice, it felt like she was guiding her toward a path she had already seen play out before. That's what made her so unnerving. Nothing surprised her. Nothing shook her. And that raises a terrifying question: how much does she really know about the creature beneath the town? And more importantly, how long has she known it? The story widened even more when the episode shifted to the growing tension between the residents and the military. Dick Halloran was barely holding himself together, and the pressure on him was reaching its breaking point. The shine was becoming both a curse and a warning. Every time it forced visions into his mind, the fear in his eyes grew clearer. You could tell he knew something catastrophic was coming, but no one around him was prepared to listen. The military saw him as a tool. Pennywise saw him as entertainment. And Halloran? He was just trying to survive his own thoughts. Leroy and Charlotte were also pushed into a spotlight they never asked for. Charlotte tried to hold on to whatever normal life she thought still existed, but this episode made it clear there is no normal left in Derry. Not when the thing behind all the missing children is getting stronger. Not when the town itself feels cursed. And definitely not when their family keeps getting dragged deeper into something that nobody ever escapes from. Charlotte's desperation to protect the people she loves clashed brutally with Leroy's attempt to keep secrets hidden. And the more they tried to protect each other with lies, the more the lies fed into exactly what Pennywise wanted: division. And then there was Rose, caught between the truth she believes and the truth the military is trying to twist into a weapon. Her scenes carried a tension that made you feel like her entire world was moments from collapsing. She knew the entity's history, the pattern it followed, the destruction it always left behind. But knowledge doesn't stop a monster like Pennywise, it only makes you realize how little control you actually have. Every answer she uncovered only made things darker. Every warning she tried to give went unheard by the people who needed it the most. The episode slowly built an atmosphere of dread, quiet but suffocating. You could feel something coming, something big enough to shift the entire season. Every character seemed to sense it in their own way. A storm wasn't approaching. It was already here. And the entity was circling them, choosing who it would break first. Episode 5 didn't reveal Pennywise fully, not yet. But it didn't need to. His presence was in every shadow, every whisper, every tense moment when the characters doubted themselves. And when a creature like that starts tightening its grip, you can be sure the next move is going to be deadly. As episode 5 pushed deeper into Derry's unraveling calm, the tension wrapped itself around every character like a tightening rope. You could feel the fear settling into the town's bones. And the worst part was that nobody was reacting the way they should. People were angry when they should have been scared, confident when they should have been cautious, and divided when they needed each other the most. That shift in behavior wasn't random. It felt intentional, like the entity was nudging the town into chaos, one person at a time. Feeding off the rising panic it created, the moment the episode shifted to Hank, everything took on a heavier tone. His name had practically been carved into the town as the scapegoat for every missing child. And the pressure around him finally exploded. Episode 5 made it painfully clear that the residents weren't looking for the truth. They were looking for someone to blame. You could see it in the way they stared at him, their rage boiling over for something they didn't understand. It was disturbing how fast anger replaced logic, and how easy it was for Pennywise to twist the town's emotions into something violent. Derry has always been like this, quick to erupt, slow to question, and Hank just ended up standing right in the center of it. Charlotte's reaction during all of this became one of the emotional anchors of the episode. She refused to step back, refused to let the noise drown out the truth she believed in. Even when people stared her down, even when they whispered about her behind her back, she still stood by Hank. That stubborn loyalty made her character feel even more human. But it also put her right in the crosshairs of Pennywise's manipulation. This episode highlighted something terrifying. It's not just the kids the entity plays with. Anyone with fear, guilt, or hope becomes part of its game. Charlotte's strength was admirable, but strength in Derry often comes with a price. Leroy felt that pressure too, and episode 5 showed it slipping out of his control. Every decision he made was starting to look like it came from fear rather than logic. His connection to the military, his past with the town, his attempts to hold his family together, it was all beginning to fray. The more he tried to shield Charlotte from the truth, the more obvious it became that the truth was already inside their home. You could almost see the guilt living under his expression, like he knew that hiding the reality of Derry wasn't protecting anyone. It was only delaying the damage. Pennywise thrives on silence, and Leroy was giving him exactly that. The episode then moved toward the military's plans, and this was where things got even darker. General Shaw became a quiet storm, a man who didn't fully understand what he was dealing with, but refused to back down anyway. His belief that the entity could be contained or controlled exposed just how dangerous ambition can be in a place like Derry. They treated the creature like a puzzle, something they could study and maybe even use to their advantage. And watching that unfold was like watching someone shake hands with a wildfire and hope they don't get burned. Rose understood that. Halloran understood that. The military didn't. Halloran's visions intensified this episode, and you could practically feel the panic rising in him. The shine wasn't just showing him warnings anymore, it was dragging him through nightmares that felt too real to ignore. Every vision hit him like a punch, forcing him to witness echoes of deaths, shadows of children, and glimpses of the creature that haunted the town long before any of them existed. This episode captured the quiet horror of someone losing control of their own mind. The shine gave him clarity, but it also gave him suffering. You could tell he was reaching a breaking point, where he wouldn't know whether what he saw was real or a trick planted by the entity. And that's the terrifying thing about Pennywise, he doesn't need to hurt you physically to destroy you. Sometimes all he needs is a thought, a whisper, a memory twisted just slightly out of place. Episode 5 showed the beginning of that psychological unraveling, and Halloran became the perfect target, strong enough to sense the danger but fragile enough to become overwhelmed by it. As all of this unfolded, the Losers Club continued trying to make sense of the chaos swirling around them. Lily's fear grew quieter but sharper. Will's guilt showed through the cracks in his confidence. Ronnie's anger simmered just beneath the surface. And the group's unity, the thing that should have held them together, started to feel brittle. This episode made their connection look more fragile than ever. A single word could break them. A single lie could tear the whole group apart. And Pennywise could see that. He could taste it. The most unsettling part of episode 5 was how still Pennywise remained. His presence was everywhere, but he didn't show himself. Not fully. It was like he was studying them, letting their emotions soften them up before the next strike. And that silence, those empty hallways, that cold wind, those lingering glances in the shadows felt more threatening than any jump scare could. Derry wasn't just haunted. It was preparing for something. And episode 5 made it clear that whatever's coming next is going to be far worse than anything the characters have seen so far. Episode 5 dug even deeper into the town's dark spiral. And this was the point where the danger stopped feeling distant and started breathing down everyone's neck. You could feel it in the way scenes shifted quicker, sharper, more frantic, like the story itself was losing patience. The silence that used to feel eerie now felt threatening. The shadows that used to hide secrets now looked like they were ready to move. And no one felt that change more intensely than Lily. Lily's entire world kept narrowing in this episode. Everywhere she turned, someone was lying, hiding something, or pretending everything was fine. She wasn't just scared anymore, she was tired. Tired of adults dismissing her, tired of friends doubting her. Tired of running from something that never stops chasing. Episode 5 showed that she was reaching a dangerous point. The moment when fear turns into recklessness. And that's exactly the moment the entity loves to exploit. You could almost see it watching her choices, waiting for her to slip just once. Her relationship with Ronnie grew more complicated too. The tension between the two felt heavier than anything they'd dealt with before. Ronnie was starting to break under her own anger and guilt, and Lily could see it. But the problem was, neither of them knew how to talk about it without reopening old wounds. Pennywise didn't need to physically appear here, just letting their emotions rub raw against each other was enough to weaken their bond. And once that bond cracks, the group starts falling apart. Episode 5 used this slow emotional unraveling to show how the entity doesn't just attack victims, it destroys connections. The bigger shift in this section of the episode came from Rose stepping into the truth head-on. She went from searching for answers to confronting the people responsible for hiding them. Shaw, the military, the old records, they all became pieces of a puzzle she knew she had to solve before something catastrophic happened. And the thing that made Rose stand out this episode was the fear she was hiding beneath her calm. She understood the history better than anyone, and that made her realize just how unprepared everyone else was. Her warnings weren't just dramatic, they were desperate attempts to stop another disaster that nobody else believed could happen again. But if Rose was the voice of reason, Halloran became the voice of warning. His mind was sinking deeper into visions that no human should ever have to witness. Every time he opened his mouth to speak, you could tell he was fighting against thoughts that didn't belong to him. Episode 5 made it clear that the Shine was no longer just a gift, it was becoming a battlefield. The entity pushed images into his mind like knives, cutting through his confidence and replacing it with panic. And yet, even through the madness, he knew something important. The cycle was accelerating. Whatever was coming wasn't far away. And it wasn't small. His scenes felt heavy because you could see him losing pieces of himself. He wasn't just scared for the kids, he was scared of becoming the reason something terrible happened. That's a different kind of fear. A deeper one. And it made Halloran one of the most unpredictable elements in the story. At any moment, his fear could lead him to something heroic or something disastrous. Meanwhile, the town itself continued slipping into madness. Episode 5 showed residents turning on each other with almost no reason at all. The anger didn't feel human, it felt infected, like something was rotting from the inside out. That's how Pennywise works. He doesn't just cause fear, he becomes it. And when a whole town is feeding him subconsciously, he grows stronger long before anyone notices. Derry wasn't falling apart by accident. It was being pushed, manipulated, twisted into a shape Pennywise could feed on. This was the episode that also hinted again toward Ingrid's strange presence. Everything about her felt off, not wrong, but out of place. Too calm, too prepared, too connected. She moved like someone who already knew the ending. The way she spoke to Lily didn't feel like comfort. It felt like direction. She acted like she understood the rules of a game Lily didn't even know she was playing. And that's what made her so unsettling. Episode 5 didn't expose her true role, but it pushed the mystery closer to the surface. Was she gifted? Was she connected? Or was she something the audience didn't see coming? Every storyline added weight to the same sinking feeling. Something huge was building underneath Derry. The entity wasn't just waking up, it was preparing. You could see the storm gathering in the way the air shifted around characters, in the quiet moments where sound cut out, in the way people looked over their shoulders without knowing why. All of these pieces pointed toward the same truth. Derry was heading into a moment that could tear the entire town apart. Episode 5 wasn't just another chapter, it was the warning before the collapse. The tension wasn't random. The fear wasn't subtle. The characters weren't paranoid. Everything they felt was real because something ancient was moving beneath them. And the scariest part? It wasn't even close to showing its full face yet. The moment we shift back into Derry's streets, everything feels heavier. Like the town itself is starting to remember what it tried to bury. Episode 5 leans deeper into that quiet madness. The kind that creeps up slow until you catch yourself looking over your shoulder for no reason. And right in the middle of it, the kids finally begin to understand that the pattern isn't random at all. Every fear that shows up, every strange sound, every missing person, it's all connected. And the connection leads straight back to a place Derry pretends doesn't exist. The old water systems under the town. This is where the episode's tension shifts. Instead of the group running from what they don't understand, they start moving toward it, even if every instinct tells them not to. ***, we see how the group becomes more open about their experiences. Not in a dramatic way, but in that quiet, nervous tone kids use when they're trying to act brave while knowing something is very wrong. Not big flashy ones, the kind that slip under your skin because they feel almost real. The kid freezes, unable to decide if this is a hallucination or something far worse. And that hesitation is exactly what the creature feeds on. By the end of the section, the kid reunites with the group, shaken but quiet, refusing to talk about what they saw. And that silence says everything. The group may be moving closer to the truth, but Pennywise is already inside their heads, twisting their memories, turning their fears into traps. Episode 5 makes one thing clear: the closer they get to the heart of Derry's secrets, the more the creature stops hiding. And the town watches them like it already knows who won't make it to the end. By the time episode 5 moves into its final stretch, the atmosphere shifts into something heavier, almost like the town is holding its breath. The kids regroup, but you can see how much they've changed in just a short time. They're quieter, more alert, constantly scanning their surroundings like they expect something to jump out at any second. It's not paranoia, it's instinct. And that's exactly what Derry wants. Because once fear becomes a habit, Pennywise doesn't have to chase you. You walk straight into him. This section focuses on the group finally deciding to face what's happening. Instead of running from it, they sit together, talking through the clues they found: old newspaper clippings, strange markings near the storm drains, the disappearances repeating every 27 years. But what stands out is how they speak. Not excited, not hopeful. Just steady, serious, like kids who understood too early that adults won't save them. They realize that the creature isn't roaming randomly. It's circling them, testing them, showing them bits and pieces of what it wants them to see. And if they don't act now, one of them might be next. The episode builds tension by focusing on small interactions. One kid mentions hearing tapping under their floorboards at night, slow and rhythmic like someone knocking from below. Another says they saw a figure outside their window, standing perfectly still in the rain, staring up at them without blinking. They tried to convince themselves it was their imagination, but they all know better. Pennywise doesn't just appear. It waits, it chooses its moment. And episode 5 makes it clear that moment is getting closer. Then comes the discovery that changes everything. One of the kids brings out a map of Derry, an old one they found in their attic. When they lay it out on the floor, something clicks. Every strange sighting, every missing person, every fear the kids have been dealing with, it all lines up along a single path. A path that leads directly to the deepest part of Derry's water system. A place that hasn't been used in decades. The map looks normal at first, but when they overlay the old sewer routes on top of the modern streets, the outline becomes unmistakable. It forms a shape, a distorted, wide grin stretching across the town, and suddenly, everything they've been feeling makes sense. The episode doesn't use jump scares here. It uses realization, the kind that hits slow and cold, where your breathing changes and your mind tries to deny what your eyes already see. They know they can't ignore it anymore. Whatever is down there, whatever has been hunting this town for generations, is awake. And it's watching them. The tension rises when the group decides to head toward the old drainage entrance. The one closest to where the sightings overlap. The walk there feels endless. The streets are too empty. The lamps flicker in that weird, almost intentional way. Like someone controlling the lights is enjoying the effect. And the distant sound of carnival music returns, faint, broken, echoing from somewhere it shouldn't be. The kids exchange nervous looks, but keep moving. Because at this point, turning back feels more dangerous than going forward. When they reach the entrance, the air changes. It's colder, damp, heavy with that old smell that comes from places sunlight hasn't touched in years. One kid hesitates, staring into the dark tunnel like it's alive. And that's when they hear it, a soft giggle slipping out from the darkness, stretched far too long to sound human. They freeze. Every instinct screams to run, but they force themselves to stay still. They know that if they show fear now, Pennywise wins. So they do the opposite. They step forward. The deeper they move, the more distorted everything becomes. Their flashlights flicker. The walls feel closer. The echoes don't match their footsteps. And in the middle of it all, they find something strange: a child's shoe, perfectly clean, sitting in a dry patch of concrete like someone placed it there intentionally. This is where the episode's uneasiness spikes. Because Pennywise doesn't leave clues. It leaves bait. One of the kids reaches down to pick it up, but before they touch it, a voice whispers their name from behind them, slow, familiar to familiar. They spin around, shining their light into the darkness. But nothing is there. Just the sound of water dripping somewhere far away. The kind of small, cold sound that makes you feel like you're not alone. Even when you can't see anything. This is where episode 5 hits its peak tension. The kids realize that the creature isn't trying to scare them into running away. It's guiding them, pulling them deeper, showing them exactly what it wants them to see. And the more they push forward, the more personal the visions become, shadows mimicking their fears, voices calling them with memories they're not ready to confront. By the final moments, the kids reach a chamber, wide, circular, silent. A place that feels like the center of Derry's nightmares. And even though nothing moves, nothing attacks, the fear is overwhelming. Because they can sense it. Something ancient, something hungry, something that has been waiting years for this moment. The episode ends with one final sound echoing through the chamber, a laugh, distant but clear, rising slowly like the beginning of a terrible joke. The kids turn toward the darkness, flashlights trembling, and the screen cuts there. A perfect setup for episode 6, where the real face of Derry finally shows itself.